Hello and welcome to Stark Talk here on BBC Radio Scotland. I'm in London to meet a much-loved actress best known as housekeeper Mrs Hughes in Downton Abbey, the phenomenally successful television period drama. 20 years ago, she was better known for having Crawley credentials as the aristocratic Lady Jane Felsham in Lovejoy. Whether upstairs or downstairs, she always gets the measure of the role.
Hello. Yes, I can straddle both. Upstairs, downstairs and in between.
Phyllis Logan, 4 series of Downton Abbey so far, with a Christmas special ahead. Now, not looking for spoilers here, much, but can you assure us that we're not going to have anything like last year's tragedy of Matthew's death? That was very unfair.
Yeah, it was a bit of a killer for everybody, wasn't it? I mean, in all senses of the word. I know, I don't know how he can live with himself, really, Julian. No, I think I can probably say nothing's going to be quite as bad as that.
And will there be joy? Are you going to get together with Mr. Carson, which would be the perfect Christmas present for viewers?
Well, I couldn't possibly say anything about that, other than, you know, we still muck along, and who knows in future what may or may not happen.
But it won't be Christmas Day.
Probably not.
That's a shame, because you do seem to be quite nice together. People have really got into that, haven't they?
There's part of me thinks, oh, it'd be quite nice, you know, instead of just all the youngsters having the romance, it would be nice to have a bit of middle-aged / elderly romance.
How much of the story do you know beforehand?
Well, generally when we start the season, we might get about 3 or 4 scripts. So we know what happens up to that point. But then, as the season wears on, we're sort of thinking, gosh, we're due to start doing episode 6 in about 5 minutes. We haven't had a script yet. What's going on? So it becomes a bit to the wire, as it were. So, but we always eagerly, have you read number 5 yet? Or have you read number this, that? And we all discuss it with great animation.
Because you worked with Mike Lee, didn't you, who's very famous for not telling anybody what to say or what to do. Or you worked in Secrets and Lies with Timothy Spall?
I did indeed.
That must have been challenging.
No,
not to work with Timothy Spall, who I think's charming.
I'm glad you corrected yourself there. Yes, no, he is a delight.
Oh,
a pure and utter delight. As is Mike Lee. He makes me laugh. He's a very funny man. But it is a challenging thing to do. But I must say, it's like no other job I've ever done. And after I'd done Secrets and Lies, the next job I went on to do, it was, you know, the usual. You get a script, you read it, you know what happens to yourself and all the other characters. And I thought to myself, actually, I don't like this film.
Like pedestrian, yeah.
I really liked the idea that I had not a clue what anybody else's storylines were, what anybody else was saying and doing, and not having to be hidebound to a script, because you just did so many improvisations that all just went into your head.
But for some bizarre reason with him it works.
I know. It's a fascinating process, really.
But you haven't suggested it to Julian Fellow, so you could actually do quite without him, thank you very much.
No, he knows his onions so well, Julian. I mean, he just is kind of immersed in that whole society and the period, and he knows everything about everything. Apart from Alistair Bruce, who's our historical advisor, who probably knows a bit more than Julian even.
I do feel sorry for you though, Phyllis Logan, because everybody upstairs gets to wear fabulous frocks, and you're in the same thing every day, and the hair.
Do you know, it has its pluses and its minuses. Yes, it would be lovely to go floating about in your silks and being up to the minute in the 20s. But those poor girls have to go for several costume fittings throughout the whole series. I go for like 2 at the beginning, and that's it. And no makeup, and I have to let my eyebrows run riot. Several months ago, no tweezers, so that I look more the part, I suppose.
Is it a part that you enjoy, or do you look upstairs and think, oh, I would actually like to be putting on the posh voice?
No. Well, I've sort of, as you alluded to at the beginning, I've done that as well. So and that was great fun to be Lady Jane and live in a nice big house and be posh. But I must say, I just love it. It's a job from heaven. It really is.
Is it?
It's fantastic.
What makes it the job from heaven?
When I read the very first script that was sent, I thought, gosh, this is the best thing I've read in ages. It really gripped you, and each character seemed to be so succinct and well drawn within a page that you knew what they were all about, and I thought, oh, this should do rather well.
But not, you surely didn't predict how well.
Oh, of course I did. No, I thought, well, they've got some good, Dame Maggie, Hugh Bonneville and Elizabeth and all the others. I thought this could be good. I loved the characters, all the characters, and she wasn't meant to be necessarily Scottish, Mrs. Hughes.
Oh, was she not? I was going to ask you
No,
that.
because it's all set kind of in Yorkshire.
Sure.
So she was probably a local to the area. But when I went and met Brian Percival and Liz Trowbridge, the producer and director of that first one, Brian said, well, you've got such a nice accent, do you want to try reading it as in your own accent? I said, well, funnily enough, Brian, I did practice both ways, and I think she rather lends herself to the Scottish idiom.
Yes, because she's a wee bit of a nippy sweetie.
She is a bit of a nippy sweetie. But that,
I like her, though.
Yes, I like her as
She's
well.
She's a decent woman.
And she sort of reminds me of a lot of people, from my childhood, and mothers, aunties, neighbours.
Well, do you model her on anybody?
Nobody specific, but I think probably, certainly Scottish people would relate to that type.
Do you? I mean, it would be very worrying if you got recognised when you were Lady Jane. It must have been nice to be recognised because you looked gorgeous always, but do you really want to be recognised as Mrs. Hughes?
Well, people don't.
That's a relief.
Well, of course. And generally, I must say, because one does put on a bit of makeup, a bit of slap on, and yes, one scrubs up halfway decently, and people will generally say, oh my God, you look 20 years younger, and I think, well, it would be awful the other way round if I was all glammed up and then I looked like a bag of the proverbials, and people say, oh, you look ghastly.
You looked stunning on the red carpet in Los Angeles when you accepted the Screen Actors Guild Award.
Oh, yes. What fun.
And up against Homeland and Mad Men.
I know. I mean, there was only 5 of us there. We honestly didn't expect to win, because I think at that point in the awards treadmill, Mad Men was scooping everything. But hey, we went and we had a laugh, and then when they announced it was us, well, you could have knocked us down with our equity cards. Extraordinary.
Partying.
We did go to a bit of a party afterwards. I think we got home to the hotel about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I Skyped my husband, and then, showed him my prize. It was thrilling. It was so exciting.
Now, who dressed you for that? Because you looked gorgeous in that midnight blue, very fitted dress, and pearls and diamonds, I think you were wearing.
I was wearing bling, but I bought that dress somewhere like Selfridges, or it might have even been House of Fraser or something.
Oh, I see. Stella wasn't on the phone saying,
No.
Phyllis Logan, I'd like to dress you for the night.
Yeah, well, if I was half the age and half the size, she probably could have done. But the one thing about that is, if I were to speak to some designer and they would offer me something or say, yes, come and have a look, it means trudging into town. It means I hate shopping for clothes. I hate it with a passion. The idea of going and getting trussed up like a turkey 5-6 times to look for different outfits, it's not appealing to me at all.
Talking about being trussed up,
yes, corsets.
do you have to wear a
still
corset?
In a flipping corset.
Do you have to wear a corset even though you're downstairs?
Yes, upstairs have sort of abandoned their corsets, but because of my age, myself and Mrs. Patmore, played by Leslie, the divine Leslie Nichol, we're still in our corsets because we're of a certain era. I tell you, the relief at the end of the day, because sometimes you can be in it for 12 hours.
Now, is it true? I think I read somewhere that when the line was still going in the series that there was the cancer scare for Mrs. Hughes, you thought that you had the same thing, and it was because of the corset.
Well, I just ended up with this. I mean, I'm sorry to be graphic, but this huge black bruise on my bosom. And this was all during the time we were filming. I'm laughing now, but it seems so absurd that I had to go and do this scene, breaking down or talking to Mrs. Patmore about it. And when I waked up, I just got in the shower one morning to go to work. It was like the map of Ireland. That's bizarre. Anyway, but everything was fine. He reckoned it might have just been like a burst blood vessel or something, but it was a bit shocking at the time.
Let's look at you and why you decided to become an actress, because you were born in Johnson, presumably no thespians in the family. Your dad worked for Rolls-Royce?
That's right, no thespians, though I did have lots of family who sang at parties and,
Very west of Scotland, that, isn't
yes.
it? Yeah.
Say a story, sing a sang, show you a bummerooty gang. So we had all of that going on through the childhood, with lots of lovely singers in the family, especially my dad's side, who were quite show-offy and loved to do comic turns. So there was a sort of
performance element.
There was a slight performance element, but certainly nobody who had embarked upon it in a professional capacity at all. So it was a bit stepping outside one's box, as it were.
And it's because you've done drama at school, or did you go to a club?
I did everything, particularly when I went to, I suppose I started off in the nativity play at primary school, playing Mary.
Oh, so you got the story right from the very beginning.
But then when I went on to high school, I was in the drama club, so I was in all the productions. I was in the film club, we used to go to every second week or something, they'd screen a film. I was in the theatre-going club. We'd go out and see things at the Citizens Theatre and the Avron Greenbaum Players. I don't know if they're even still going, but everything to do with the drama I was involved with. And
so did you feel that this was going to be your future career?
Well, no, because it still never occurred to me that one could actually do that and make a living at it and call it a profession.
So what made you apply then? You went to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Dance?
Yeah, I suppose it was a friend that sort of encouraged me, because I thought, I really don't know what I want to do. The only passion that I had was for that. And she said, well, get a prospectus and apply, and so I did. And then, fortunately, they accepted me.
You won the James Bridie Gold Medal in 1977.
Goodness, you have done your research.
Well, because he was instrumental in starting the Citizens.
Yes, that's right, he was.
What was your parents' reaction, though? In working class family, what did they think when you said that you were going to be an actress?
At the time, I remember them thinking it was all a bit sort of out of left field. Drama school, what do you want to do that for? But I sort of persevered and had the auditions and then got accepted. And so I think they were quite pleased that I had got into the college, but weren't really sure what it was all about and how I was going to make a career out of this.
Your father worked for Rolls-Royce, but presumably didn't drive one?
Certainly not. We didn't drive at all. We didn't have a car. My dad never drove. So we would just get buses and trains everywhere when we visited our various relatives, aunts and uncles. And our holidays consisted of probably going to Saltcoats for a week. So we didn't have a lot of spare cash. My mum mostly stayed at home until we were older, and then she just got a couple of little jobs here and there, working in a dry cleaning shop and then in a city bakeries, where she got me a job as a Saturday girl. That was my first job when I was 15. So yeah, it was lovely. We lived in a council house and were fairly working class, but decent working class, not scum working class.
But your dad was a union official. Was he quite political?
He was the AEUW, as it was then, the Amalgamated Union of Engineering Workers. He was the secretary of his branch, and I used to help him stamp his cards, and he'd give me some money for doing that, write out the envelopes to send to all these union people. Yeah, he was quite active in that department. I think he stood for council at one point, but never got in. But yeah, he was a big socialist.
He died very young.
Yes. He died when he was 59. I was 20 when my dad died, which was quite a blow to us all, and quite sudden, shocking. But yes, my mum, of course, thinking back to it, she would only have been 55, so she was younger than I am now when she was widowed. So by the time she died, she had been widowed longer than she'd ever been married.
I was young when my father died. Do you think it's made you stronger?
Possibly. I don't know, because at that time it was the worst thing that had ever happened to me, as you can imagine, as you probably know from your own father's death. But yes, definitely, and it takes you years to get through the other. I mean, fortunately, one was very busy, and I suppose youth does help you through, because in your life's so busy anyway that you don't have time to wallow. But yeah, it was tough. Yeah, not a very nice time.
But it's a bittersweet thing, isn't it, when you win something like the James Bridie Prize and your dad's not there to see it?
I know, he would have been quite chuffed with that, I guess. My mother just died 2 years ago. She was 90. She managed to follow my career and come on set and be extras on set and everything, you know. So, yeah.
In Downton?
Not in Downton, no. I did a film in Spain once. It was one of these wonderful co-productions. We went all over the place, and she and my lovely aunt Margaret came out for 3 weeks and ended up being on set as extras. It was great.
You're listening to Stark Talk here on BBC Radio Scotland. I'm Edie Stark, and my guest is Phyllis Logan, otherwise known on TV as Mrs. Hughes in Downton Abbey. Do you ever feel, though, Phyllis, that you missed out on a stellar career? You've always worked, but you were being hailed as the new Vanessa Redgrave when you performed in director Michael Radford's Another Time, Another Place, the Jessie Kesson. You were wonderful in it.
Oh,
and of course, and I love Jessie Kesson.
I know.
Did you ever meet her?
I did, several times, and she used to live in, this is when I lived up in North London, and she lived in Highgate, and I used to go round and have tea with her and listen to her endless wonderful stories about her childhood and her life. And she was great. She was a real extraordinary woman.
She must have felt quite a connection with you, though, because it was very much her story, wasn't it?
Very much so, yes, very much so.
Particularly the Whitebird Passes, which is when Janie is younger.
Yes, she's in an orphanage, basically, and her mother is dying of syphilis, having been a prostitute for...
which was all true.
Which was all true, yes. So
well, if anybody hasn't read Jessie Kesson, these are wonderful, wonderful.
It's so spare, her writing, but it just gets to the nub all the time. It's fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah. But you won a BAFTA award for Most Outstanding Newcomer in 1984. You won an Evening Standard Award for Best Actress. You were right up there.
I know, and then it all went to hell. No, I know, that was lovely. People probably think I haven't fulfilled my promise, as it were.
But do you feel that?
But, I'm happy the way my career's gone. Yes, it would have been nice to maybe make a few more movies, but, things go the way they go, and you can't live your life regretting what didn't happen.
But maybe you didn't do enough to capitalise on that success.
Perhaps not. Perhaps not.
You were in Lovejoy for nearly 50 episodes. You were there for years, 1988 to 1994.
Well, we filmed the very first one in 85.
But you left of your own volition, did you?
I did.
You weren't written out of the script?
No. In retrospect, I might have stayed on a bit longer, but I suppose because I felt a lot of it was quite repetitive, understandably, because I was playing a character who was not obviously the eponymous hero.
Did you feel that you weren't being challenged enough as an actress then in that role? I mean, it was steady work, presumably it was paying the mortgage.
Oh, yes, it was. It was great. And I have to say, what a laugh. We had the best fun. It was fabulous going to work in beautiful locations. It always seems sunny when you look back at them now. I mean, I can't remember one patch of rain, but it must have rained while we were doing it. But
Ian McShane, of course, did have a reputation as being a bit of a hellraiser. Did he calm down by the time you were working opposite him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's given up on all that stuff long time ago. So, yeah, he was a scream, actually. We used to have such laughing with Chris Jury and Malcolm Tierney and Dudley Sutton. We all had such fun. It was just great. But I did feel that, I suppose I was anxious to get out and do other stuff.
You then were working on the television series Love and Reason, and that is when you met your husband, love of your life, Kevin McNally.
Yes, well, I didn't think he was any great shakes at all when I first met him. I thought he was an arrogant git. And it was only later on when we met up, you know, in a social way, somewhere or other, and I thought, oh. And then things sort of took off from there, I suppose. 94, that was, when we got together. And then I suppose we must have known it was all meant to be because we got engaged that Christmas.
Now, I believe that you've had more than one engagement ring.
Oh, yes, he keeps buying me engagement rings.
You had a very long engagement.
Yes.
How long?
No, wait a minute. It sounds a bit like Abigail in Guys and Dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Adelaide, I mean.
Oh, Adelaide.
I played her, for heaven's sake. Yeah. Adelaide and Nathan Detroit.
Yes.
They've been engaged for about 40
She gets
years.
a cold.
Yeah. Well, it was about that length of time.
Why did you take so long?
It all just circumstance, and then, of course, our son, came along, had to move house, blah, blah, blah,
You were 40 when Davy was born. Life literally does begin at 40.
Yes, new life.
And you didn't realise you were pregnant?
No, I'd gone on holiday with a friend and was feeling a bit sort of ick. She'd run off and got a kit to test me, and I was. She knew more than I did, just by looking at me. Anyway, it was a bit of a surprise, but not unpleasantly so. We'd thought that we might, but just left it all to chance, as it were.
What was Kevin's reaction? Because he already had 2 children.
He was a bit knocked back, but thrilled, absolutely thrilled, once he got over the shock.
Did you find it exhausting having a child at 40?
I suppose so, but what was great was because Kevin had had previous experience, it wasn't that thing of 2 people having this thing thrown at them that they don't know what they're doing. He loves children. He really does. He's great with babies, little kiddies, big kiddies, even bigger kiddies. He's great. So that was a bonus as well.
But nevertheless, for you it must have been a huge culture shock.
It was a bit.
You go 40 years of your life as a woman, as single, no children.
No.
And
I never thought that I would have any, really.
Had no desire for children?
Not really. No. Not until Kevin came along.
And Davy?
And then my lovely boy.
You must be, 17 now?
He is.
So you'll be facing empty nest syndrome ahead of you. How will it be then? Having thought you could do without children then.
Yeah.
In your situation now.
It'll be very peculiar because, of course, he's so looking forward to leaving school and getting off into the big wide world. And,
With 2 actors in the family already, do you think he might follow in your footsteps?
No, I don't think so. No, he's not interested, which is great for us, so we don't have to. I have so many actor friends who say, oh yes, both my children are at drama school now, oh my God, and and you think, oh God, I know what it's like when you're young, and the rejection must be dreadful nowadays. So I'm glad he's not got that to go through, but he wants to be a musician. It's almost just as bad.
2 actors, though, in the family is not always a recipe for a good marriage or a good relationship. Why do you think it has worked with this arrogant git?
No, he's not at all. He's delightful and lovely, and I adore him. Because we're apart a lot of the time. He goes away more than I do, and absence, it's true, does make the heart grow fonder. We know this business and we know what it's all about. I often think it must be peculiar for people who aren't married to an actor, but then people who are in that situation think, I'd hate to be married to an actor. So I can see it from both sides, but I think it's good that we do maintain that thing. He's been away a lot of the time doing Pirates of the Caribbean over the years. I mean, not in recent years, but he's away just now doing something in Richmond, Virginia, that is. So, not Richmond down the road. We Skype, obviously, and talk all the time, but just having that slight distance, you get used to it. Sometimes you get fed up and think, oh, I wish Kevin was here now. that's the way it is, and, you know, one's got to pursue a career and earn a living and all that jazz. So I think the fact that we do spend reasonable time apart, I think, makes it fresh.
You left Lovejoy all those years ago, partly because you thought you were, I suspect, getting a little bored with the character and didn't want to be typecast, didn't want to be in
I suppose that was the main reason, that I didn't want to be typecast, and I felt that the longer that I played this same role, that it would be more difficult to break away from that and do completely different things. So I suppose that was why.
So what about Mrs. Hughes if she goes into a 56 series?
Well, you see, then I was much younger. Now, you know, I'm not. So Mrs. Hughes can go on for as long as she likes. No, the thing about that as well, I mean, to be serious, I don't really, because it's a period drama, I don't dress like Mrs. Hughes, I don't look like Mrs. Hughes, and it's a different thing altogether. I feel, you know, that people aren't going to constantly, well, they might offer me parts in, you know, period dramas playing a housekeeper, are they? Well, they might. Well, I'll consider any offers, actually.
Is there anything that you really do want to do ahead of you, though? I mean, you're still in your 50s.
I can't think of anything specific. Like, I don't hanker after playing a classical Shakespearean role necessarily. They're just sort of good, solid characters that one can get one's teeth into.
What's coming across clearly from you, though, is that you're a worker. It's not the fame that does it for you. It's probably not even the money. It's actually getting up and doing your job.
It's great. It is a very good job. I highly recommend it if you've got the staying power.
But celebrity just is way off your radar, isn't it? You're not at all interested.
No. I mean, it's lovely when people say nice things to you in the street or whatever. And particularly Downton in the States. They're mad for it. They're absolutely mad for it. That's lovely that you're in something that is so popular with people. But, you know, you have to keep your feet in the ground as well. It's great. I just love the whole process of doing it. When you get a new script, be it Downton or anything else, and you work on it and you find out the character. It's great.
Phyllis Logan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And you can listen to that programme again by logging on to bbc.co.uk/Radio Scotland. Stark Talk is a Stark production for BBC Radio Scotland.